All right, let's jump right in, because today we are tackling one of the biggest, most personal mysteries there is, consciousness. I mean, what is it, and where on earth does it come from? We're going to look at two completely different and totally fascinating ideas about how it all works.
But first, let's just make this personal for a second. Forget all the complicated science and philosophy, just notice. Notice the feeling of being you, right now. The light in the room, the sound of my voice, your own thoughts just popping into your head. Why is any of that happening? Why isn't it all just dark inside? That feeling, that private inner world, that's the mystery we're diving into.
And look, this is not some trivial question. As the scientist Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff put it, this isn't some side effect of being human. No, it's the main event. Consciousness is the very screen that our entire reality plays out on. You could say it defines, well, everything.
Now, to even begin to tackle this, science kind of splits the problem in two. On one side, you have what they call the easy problems. And trust me, they're not actually easy, but they are things we can get a handle on. You know, how the brain crunches data, or how we focus our attention. But then there's the hard problem. And that is a whole different beast. It's not about what the brain is doing, but why it feels like something when it does it. Why do you actually experience the color red instead of your brain just, processing a wavelength of light? That's the real puzzle.
So for our first theory, we're going deep, I mean really deep. We're zooming past the usual stuff right down into the fundamental hardware of our minds to see if the answer is hiding at the quantum level.
So when we usually think about brain activity, we're thinking about this, right? Neurons firing away, sending signals across these gaps called synapses. It's all electrical, it's all chemical. But some scientists are starting to think that this is just the end result. The real action, they say, is happening somewhere much, much smaller. We actually have to go inside the neurons themselves.
And that's where we find these things, microtubules. Now, on the surface, they're just the scaffolding for our cells. They give the cell its shape, they help move things around. They're basically the cell's skeleton. But the theory we're looking at today suggests there's so much more than that.
So what if consciousness isn't about the simple on or off firing of a neuron? What if it's something way more subtle, way more profound? What if, tucked away inside every single one of your neurons, there's a kind of quantum orchestra, and each moment of your conscious experience is a note being played?
This is the big idea behind what's called the OR theory. So let's break it down. First, the tiny proteins that make up these microtubules can enter a quantum state called superposition. That just means they can exist in multiple possible states at the exact same time. Then these quantum states are orchestrated, they're not random, and they perform a kind of computation. And finally, and this is the real kicker, that whole cloud of possibilities collapses into one single definite reality. And the theory says that very moment of collapse is a moment of conscious experience, a little flash of awareness.
So from this point of view, your consciousness isn't a continuous flowing river. It's actually more like a movie, made up of a rapid series of distinct individual frames, and each quantum collapse is creating one of those frames.
But that leads to a huge question, right? Because our experience doesn't feel like a slideshow of still frames. It feels smooth. It feels continuous. So if this quantum hardware is creating the individual pixels of our reality, what's creating the seamless film of our lives?
Okay, for our second theory, let's zoom out, all the way out. Let's forget the quantum world for a minute, and instead let's look at the software of the mind by talking about an experience I guarantee every single one of us has had.
Oh, you know this feeling. You're reading a book, your eyes are scanning the words, maybe you're even turning the pages, but your mind is a million miles away. And then, snap, you're back in the room. You suddenly realize you have not absorbed a single word. That moment of realization, that snap, is everything for this next idea.
That ability to snap back, to notice what your own mind has been up to, has a name. It's called meta-awareness. It's the mind's ability to not just have experiences, but to actually step back and look at the experience itself. It is, quite literally, awareness of your own awareness.
And this shows us the difference between two states of mind. Most of the time, our consciousness is transparent. It's like a perfectly clean window. We look right through it at the world. But in that moment of meta-awareness, the mind becomes opaque. All of a sudden, we're not looking through the window anymore, we're looking at the window itself. We're noticing the process of thinking. The researchers behind this model have this fantastic analogy for it. They say meta-awareness is like the focus wheel on a pair of binoculars. It allows you to dial in and adjust the precision of your own focus, shifting from being totally lost in a thought to being aware that you are thinking.
So this all builds into a kind of three-level model of the mind. At the bottom, level 1, you've got raw perception, seeing, hearing, feeling stuff. Above that, level 2, is your attention, which decides what to focus on. And right at the top, level 3, is meta-awareness, which is monitoring and controlling your attention. Each level is basically trying to predict and correct the one below it. It's a constant process of self-monitoring that helps us manage our crazy inner worlds.
Okay, so we have this deep quantum hardware theory, and then we have this high-level software theory about awareness. So are they fighting each other? Do you have to pick one? Or could they actually be two sides of the same coin?
Let's put them side by side. The OR theory is all happening at the microscopic quantum level. That's the hardware. Meanwhile, this active inference model is working at the macroscopic cognitive level. That's the software. So one theory gives us a physical mechanism, an objective reduction, that could create a single moment of awareness, and the other describes the system we use to manage our attention to all those moments.
So maybe they don't compete at all. It's possible that the quantum spark from the OR theory is what creates each individual frame of consciousness, the raw material of your experience. And maybe the cognitive hierarchy of meta-awareness is the software that stitches all those frames together, letting us not just have experiences, but to actually direct them, to choose what we pay attention to.
So where does that leave us? Are you a quantum machine, where each thought is a tiny collapse of reality that connects you to the physics of the universe? Or are you a prediction engine, this incredibly sophisticated biological software that has learned to create a model of itself? The most mind-bending possibility is that you're not one or the other. You're both. A quantum ghost living inside an evolved machine. And figuring that out might just be the key to understanding everything.